You really just have to give yourself a lot of grace and like really be okay with doing what you can and knowing your limits and working within those limits.
Welcome to Drawing Health, a podcast resource all about comics and well-being. Here you'll find interviews with artists, writers, and healthcare workers talking about the genre of comics called graphic medicine. You'll also find guided audio practices to help you build a gentle relationship with your body, overall health, and creativity. I'm Georgia Weber, comics artist and teacher, chronically ill and neurodivergent. It's my absolute pleasure to bring you this podcast in collaboration with the Sequential Artists Workshop, or SAW, a grassroots nonprofit comic school and creative community where I also teach the weekly class that gave our podcast its name. So listen and subscribe to explore the worlds of graphic medicine, creative health, and yourself with some excellent company. Hello again. Ooh, I forgot how to talk. Okay, here we go. Hi everyone, I'm so glad to be back with another interview for you this week. This is my first time meeting Zareen Choudhury, my guest. I have so much to talk to her about, and I'm so inspired by how she's managing herself, her health, how she's choosing her own ambitions, and navigating all of that with chronic health issues. You'll hear at one point in the interview, I think it's in the later half, I actually just get kind of flustered about how to ask a question or what I'm trying to say. And that only happens when I haven't actually thought of something yet. It's a new experience for me, and I'm grasping at how to make sense of something that I hadn't imagined before this moment. So I left that part in because I want you to experience, as my listeners, me having like a brand new thought for the first time. I think those genuine moments are so beautiful in interviews, and even though I wish I'd been articulate, I can appreciate it for what it is. And I think you're really going to appreciate Zareen Choudhury. If you enjoy our conversation even half as much as I did, I think you're going to have a really nice time. So without further ado, Zareen Choudhury. Hi, Zareen.
Hi, Georgia.
I told some of my students that I was starting this podcast because they're all obsessed with graphic medicine. And I asked, who would you like me to speak to? Because I don't know everything. Tell me who your favorite artists are. And one of my students was like, Zareen,
Aww,
we have to get Zareen Choudhury.
Choudhury.
Yeah, please ask Zareen how she does 1,000,001 things with chronic illness in her life. I don't understand it. Just like tell us her magic. But this was my introduction because just someone gushing about you, that's my favorite way to learn about a new artist.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, it's always surprising. In the world of comics especially, people are kind of quiet and you live your life just posting things online or whatever.
Right.
And then you find out a real person like read your work and loves you and cares about you. Thrilling.
I know. It's like, whoa, what?
Yeah, but she found out about you through your comics, she found out about you through your chronic illness.
Comics Club. It is a mouthful. It is a lot of C's. Yeah.
So she found out about you through your chronic illness comics club. Is that right?
You nailed it.
I said all the C sounds.
You said all of them in the right order. Yeah.
That's a win. That's a win for me. Which honestly, when I heard about it as well, I thought, where has this been all my life? So I would love for you to start by telling people about how that project came about, because I'm aware it's only been 2025. Crucial Comics is the sort of hosting organization. Yeah. I'm hoping there's plans that it will continue beyond this year. Tell me how this came about.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. On the flip side, I have been secretly hoping that I would meet you at some point.
Wait, what? That's so exciting.
Yeah, I've been following your Instagram. I don't remember when I came across your work, but I've been on the lookout for like who else is making comics about health, about chronic illness, and is like talking about it. And you were one of the people I came across. And it might have been through SAW actually, because you've taught a couple different things through there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I've I'm on your newsletter, and I was like, oh, I really hope someday like Georgia and I can connect in some way because she's doing all this cool stuff related to chronic illness and talking about her experiences, and I want to talk to her, you know?
Wow.
So this it was very exciting for me when I saw that email in my inbox inviting me to be on this podcast. Um, and it's also like such a full circle thing that like one of your students was talking about
Yeah,
me. So that's
exactly.
amazing.
It's beautiful. I really love that, especially because, yeah, it's basically, I think, in the chronic illness world, in the disability world, like we do really want to find each other
Yes,
so much.
absolutely.
And how we find each other, I mean, we're kind of just making magic happen, like just pulling on threads, and eventually you'll find another person who understands your experience. But that's why something like your project, the Chronic Illness Comics Club, whew, said it fast that time. I'm going to celebrate every time. Um, it was so exciting to me because I was like, you're providing a space where people can just immediately know if I have a chronic illness, like that is for me. I'm not being
Hmm.
tolerated. I'm not being, accommodated and accepted. It's like this was made for us to meet each other. It's what it feels like
Yeah.
to me. So,
Yeah.
how did you decide to do it?
Yeah. So I guess I have, I've been living with chronic illness for about like 5 years now and counting. And, the first few years, very isolating. I didn't even know the term chronic illness. I had no idea what was going on with my body. None of the doctors knew. It was very isolating. And I'm also like relatively young. I started experiencing these things in like my mid 20s, and I really didn't know anyone, any peers who were going through the same thing. So it was just a very isolating experience. And it wasn't until a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I would say, that I've started finding some community, like not necessarily comics related, but just chronic illness community, finding other creatives locally who had similar experiences. And that was like a really kind of breakthrough moment for me, was finding peers who have similar experiences, who can validate what you're going through, and also like the knowledge sharing of like, oh, which doctors are you checking out? Like, oh, you got diagnosed, you did this test, all of this stuff, was seriously just really life changing for me to find that community. Even if, my symptoms, my physical symptoms were not necessarily changing all that much, or improving, but just having that community, like for the mental side, was so important. Um, and so I just really wanted to keep finding more people like that. And I started making some comics about my experiences as well. I kind of was previously doing more like single panel, like humorous cartoons. And then I was really feeling this urge to sort of tell my stories, share my stories, see if it could reach anyone else who was going through similar experiences, and also just find other people who I could connect to. So I sort of like had this vision in my head of like creating some sort of community around, chronically ill, disabled cartoonists. And I had sort of like mapped out in my head what that could look like. But as a chronically ill person, I was like, there's literally no way I can do this on my own. Like, I really don't have the bandwidth, the energy, the resources to do this. So it was just sort of in the back burner. And then last year, Crucial Comics started, and they are a publishing platform, mainly for nonfiction and memoir comics. And I initially got involved with them because they had like an open call for comics year round. So I submitted a comic, going gluten free, and it was accepted and published there. And so once I got into that, I was added to their Discord group. And in their Discord, just like other people were sort of also talking about chronic illness, and there were just like a couple of us who were like, hey, yeah, it would be really cool if we could like have some sort of meetup or community or class or something around chronic illness, sort of just like as a throwaway thing. I don't think any of us really expected something to come out of it. But I have to give a lot of credit to the Crucial Comics editors, Shay and Audra, and they are so amazing. I think they really want Crucial Comics not just to be a publisher, but to also be an actual community and a space and a platform for any of these needs that the comics community has. And they were like, hey, we're thinking about actually putting together some sort of a chronic illness comics related meetup. And they reached out to me and they were like, would you be interested in leading this? And I was like, oh my God, this is like
Wow, yeah.
exactly what I wanted, is like to be able to do this and have this space, but for not all of that work to be a burden for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
they have really created, you know, they've kind of taken care of all of the logistics and like the marketing and the promotion and stuff of like sending it out, like creating a mailing list for it, like advertising it to the mailing list, having the Zoom link, like setting up all of that logistics. And so I really don't have to like worry about all that extra work, which does take a lot of time and energy.
It really does.
Yeah, and I think initially they were like, "Oh, it can just be like casual, like meet up, share things." And then I think I sort of wanted it to. I had a vision where I wanted it to be like providing people with specific prompts around like specific themes related to chronic illness each time. So I started creating like these little like slide decks for each of the meetups and like brainstorming prompts, brainstorming themes, and like kind of guiding people through first like written prompts and then giving them time to make the comic and then sharing them with each other. And so it's been just a really, really wonderful community.
Yeah, you had the vision, which is amazing. And I think there's something to holding that dream just within yourself, not
Yeah.
necessarily driving at it or like, setting a plan or a timeline, but that still your actions are kind of seeking. And then when you're in the right place, like it seeks you back. You had these people just notice that you were a really good option for centering that group. Like a group needs some level of facilitation. It's
Hmm.
not like teacher and student necessarily, but just someone to kind of hold the space. And something about the way that you were in that chat, I would guess, in the Discord, told them like that's the right person to ask. Let's give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I'm
really, really grateful for them for like really seeing the need and following through with it. Yeah.
yes, yeah. Actually, I would say that is something we're craving in disability and chronic illness spaces is for people who actually have the resources
Exactly.
to not only recognize and like acknowledge us, but
Hmm.
step forward, step towards us to share those
Yeah.
resources and make it easier.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it sounds beautiful. And I've also, through doing the research for this podcast, learned a lot more about Crucial Comics because that's where I found the club was
Yay.
hosted. And I went, okay,
Yeah.
well, what is this? Let's go. I'd seen it a little bit around, mostly through the publishing of, what is the name of the book now? I think it might just be as simple as How to Make a
Oh,
Nonfiction Comic that
oh
Shay
yeah,
and
yeah.
Larry May
Larry.
did,
Yeah.
or Larry
Yeah, that's
Mai.
right. Hmm.
Um, yeah, I know Larry from many, many years ago, but haven't
Mm-hmm.
spoken in a long time. And I follow her, and that led me to
Mm-hmm.
understanding Shay and that Crucial existed. And then you brought me
Yeah.
back for a deeper dive. And again, that's just like the beauty of comics people, and then also people with illness is like we really want to find each other. So we're like seeking
Mm-hmm.
out there in the world as much as our energy levels
Mm-hmm.
and access facilitations allow. Um, I'm I'm right there with you on I have big dreams and all of the logistical elements to making that big dream happen are so energy expensive.
Yes.
Some people use like the spoon theory. They call
Mm-hmm.
themselves spoonies, and
Yep.
it would be, oh my God, I only have so many spoons in my life for managing my symptoms, for having social
Mm-hmm.
relationships, for the work or whatever it is I do to make sure that my passion is fulfilled, and also I have money to support myself with these extra needs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
wow, how could I? Where am I going to find extra spoons to like add a a passion project that's unpaid that I have to be consistent in when my symptoms are not necessarily consistent. Yeah, I mean, I am only doing this because of SAW providing those resources to me.
And that's amazing. Yeah. I'm I think we really need these, yeah, these like kind of bigger organizations or platforms that can sort of carve out these spaces for people like you and me who like are
Mm-hmm.
seeing these, like have these visions for things that the community wants, things that the community needs, but we sort of need that like external scaffolding to make it happen so
Yeah.
that we can prevent burnout and make sure that it's an actually sustainable practice, right?
Absolutely. And for another full circle moment, Saw is actually a supporter of Crucial Comics. So we have
Yes.
this little, like, we're basically all
Yeah.
here because of Saw,
Yeah.
which is
And I'm
amazing.
even wearing my Saw shirt today, so
Oh,
shout
so
out.
good. Yeah. Because you just graduated from the year-long program, is that right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So
yeah.
that would have been, you would have graduated in what
In
month was
June.
it? June. So
Yeah.
very recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you find attending a program like SAW, which is definitely made to be like high impact but low pressure? And you know, it's more affordable than many other programs, and you're doing it at home. You're doing it on your computer, which is a really
Exactly.
helpful element for a chronically ill or disabled person, making a broad generalization there, but it does catch a lot of the accessibility needs that we have simply by, you know, using a platform that does automatic captions or having everything be asynchronous so that you can show up to the calls live if you want, but you can also just sleep through it and do it when it
Yeah.
makes sense for you. How did you find going through that program, managing symptoms? And also, it seems like you've been adding a lot to your plate at the same time.
Yeah.
Because that's like I don't know, what is that, four different jobs that you're doing essentially, even though one of them is learning and
Yeah.
producing. And then there's,
Right, right.
I mean, that's what Jen, my student, really wanted me to ask you about was how do you manage so many different things in your life with chronic illness? And the way I would like to spin the question is, could you tell us, like, what's the sort of big list of what you're managing all the time
Man.
and follow it? Or maybe here's the sort of, here's the wonderful fruit to come from that tree is, how do you take care of yourself doing all of those things?
Yeah, that's a really big question and one I'm constantly thinking about as
Mm-hmm.
well.
That's a full-time
Yeah,
job in itself, thinking
for
about the
sure.
things you're managing and you're feeling. And yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Definitely like the past year up until very recently felt very busy for me. So yeah, just going through the things. I do have a full-time job. I work at a nonprofit as a program manager that is fully remote, which is very helpful. And then I was doing the SAW year-long program, which ran from September through June. Then I started facilitating the Chronic Illness Comics Club in January, which was like once a month, skipped a couple months here and there. I also I had have been working on a comic for an anthology, the How to Touch Grass anthology by Power and Magic Press, which I found out I got into like sometime in the spring, like maybe like January or February-ish time. That has been like a comic which has been different from previous ones where you are working directly with the editor throughout the entire development process. So it was very hands-on where it's like send in thumbnails, get feedback, send in pencils, get feedback, like every single draft. So that has been like a whole process as well ongoing. Um, I was also up until recently co-facilitating a local chronic illness meetup as well as a local graphic novel reading club, um, as well as like an occasional like just general local comics meetup in San Francisco. So yeah, it's been a lot. And I have definitely been feeling that. um, I think, yeah, like how do I manage all of that?
Yeah, yeah.
I will
I
say
mean,
I am actively like trying to like yeah, trying to like release myself of many of these obligations because it has been feeling like too much for too
Mm-hmm.
long. I think I am feeling some of that burnout of like being a facilitator for so many different groups, and wanting to make more space both like to focus on my own health as well as just like making my own art. um, some things I will say, my job is very like remote, is completely remote, so I don't have to go in person anywhere. I can work from home. It's also like fairly flexible, and I do have like a very good work life balance from that. So, I am able to go to appointments in the middle of the day, or, take care of errands or take care of my health, or, if I need to like lie down for a little bit. I have all of that like flexibility, which I'm very grateful for. And I don't think I could do a job that like doesn't have all of those affordances anymore. Like I used to work, pre chronic illness, pre pandemic. I used to work at an in person job, that was like in person 5 days a week. And
Oh my
I really
gosh.
don't think I could do something like that anymore. Or even like
Yeah.
an intense workplace that, is demanding or like would work. Like, yeah. So that is something like I feel very grateful for my job right now and having that financial stability and, the healthcare, but also having the flexibility. And I recognize that that is a pretty rare combination to find.
It
So I
absolutely
really,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm like really trying to hold on to that for as long as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's one thing. And, as I mentioned, that does provide like the financial stability. So I don't
I'm
really
so
have,
glad,
yeah.
yeah, that you brought that up. Because,
Hmm.
I mean, there's an element here. I am loving your answer to this question of like, how do you take care of yourself when we're crawling towards that? But the first
Yeah.
step of it being, well, I have the means to take care of myself. Like, that's
Yeah.
so, so impactful. Even if it's the means in terms of, like you said, flexibility if you need to lie down in the middle of the day or go to an
Hmm.
appointment. And then also knowing, like, this is financially viable. You're not giving your spoons
Exactly.
to something that will not meet all of those needs. It's actually like, I mean, I would just say it sounds like a fair working condition, which I
Hmm.
believe for myself, I believe that the world needs to adopt that as the standard, as opposed to
Yeah.
what we're talking about now, where it's like this is a rarity and a privilege.
Hmm.
It's a privilege
Hmm.
everybody should have, is what I think. But beyond that, you were going to tell us how you take
Oh, yeah.
care, doing a million things, perhaps in a more personal way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about like the SAW, like doing the SAW program with a full-time job was like it was demanding. It wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
a walk in the park. Yeah, like there were like weekly assignments and like weekly meetings and all of that. I think like something that has just like generally helped me is like letting go of perfectionism and not holding myself to like a certain kind of impossible standard for things, So like if I were doing that, I think I would just be spending so much time and energy on each assignment and like making sure it's like at a certain level and working at it until it's like achieves that vision. And that's just simply not possible with chronic illness. I think like you really just have to give yourself a lot of grace and like really be okay with, you know doing what you can and knowing your
Yes.
limits and working within those limits.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like when I was much younger, I was not like this. I was definitely much more of a perfectionist.
Same.
But just like over, yeah,
Big
but just
same.
like with all the circumstances of life and adulting, and on top of that, dealing with health, I think it really just forces you to get to know yourself better and really listen to yourself, and you can't
Mm-hmm.
push through when
Yep.
things are in a bad place, right? Um,
Yeah. I love you using the word grace earlier. And then as you were speaking about limits and working within them, it just snapped clearly into my mind. Like, working within limits is an incredibly graceful thing to do that I don't think I would ever describe trying to override limits or force past or
Hmm.
push through as graceful. And giving yourself
Yeah,
grace
yeah.
is a beautiful thing. It's another way to describe self compassion, perhaps.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but sometimes those words just get used so often. We're like, what does that even mean anymore? I can't do it. I tried. It's so hard. But saying, give yourself a little grace or try to move gracefully with the situation you're in. It
Hmm.
just came clear as you were talking. So I really appreciate your use of words.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I think just to give some concrete examples, like, when I'm sick, when I'm having a flare up, I'm like, I tell work I need to take a sick day. Like, I'm not going to push through this. I'm not going to try to work through it. I actually just need to rest. And if it takes me a week to get better, which happened recently when I was sick, like, yeah, I had to take the whole week off
Yeah.
until I was better. And also, when I was working on the anthology comic, I I was like really busy over the summer. So I like initially asked for a deadline because I knew I was like, or an extension on the deadline for one of my drafts because I knew I was traveling. And then when I got back from my travels, I was just like for the whole month of September and into October, I was literally just like having like different health things like every single week. And I was just dealing with a new
Wow.
thing. And I kept trying to work on my comic and I just couldn't. I really couldn't. And so I did feel a little bad. Like I do feel guilty. It's not like I'm perfect at giving myself grace either, you know. I
Yeah.
do
It's
want
hard.
to I do want to hit those deadlines. And I was like, "Oh my God, I already asked for an extension. Now I have to ask for a second one and then a third one." And I was just
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, I feel so icky. I feel so bad doing this." But I was really grateful that the editor, Joe, was just like so kind and so understanding. And they really didn't make me feel bad about it or like put any pressure on me. And so I am like super grateful that sometimes you can be asking for those things, but then like other people or like other circumstances might not allow for it, which kind of sucks when that happens. But in
Mm-hmm.
this case, I was really glad that they were like, yeah, do your thing, take your time. And at some point, I was just like, okay, I'm going to stop like giving you a deadline when I think I can achieve this by because things just keep happening and I keep not hitting the
Yeah.
deadlines. So I will get it to you when I get it to you, you know?
Amazing. Yes. And
Yeah.
that's great. That's great self advocacy in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of recognizing perhaps setting that deadline as you were trying to be responsible and, get the comic to them on some kind of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that might have actually been contributing pressure. That
Yeah.
being able
Yeah.
to prioritize, like, well, maybe I need to take the pressure off, which means I'm going to tell you that there actually isn't a deadline. It's just going to come when it comes. It's kind of a beautiful thing to think you're sort of saying that when you say it to someone else. I always think you're saying it to yourself as well, because you not only
Yeah.
say it, but you hear
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
And that some part of you heard that and was like, oh, okay, pressure off. Now you can actually just focus on whatever you need to do, which will inevitably
Mm-hmm.
lead to making the comic because you love doing it. That's also coming from within you, the same way that like
Mm-hmm.
symptoms are, or a big no from your body comes from within you. Like they're not different places, at least in my philosophy. Like our health is such a creative thing,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
continue to exist in this body, for this body to continue to exist, is constantly adapting. And we do get maladaptations, like we get things that were adaptive at one point becoming harmful to us, or they're good in the short term, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not good in the long term.
Yeah.
And some diseases can be described that way, as just like, oh, something turned on in the body and it should have been turned off, but it wasn't. And now your body's been like adapting to it and living with it. And I mean, we're not going to go deep into science here today, but it's beautiful to think about how that creativity is part of our aliveness. It's part of our inhabiting this physical form, and accepting what your body is doing actually
Mm-hmm.
sometimes does really like open the creative flow, open the creative
Yeah.
capacity. Um, I mean, that's my experience. That's why I speak to it so loudly. I'm just like, I need to say this because no one taught me that was what was going to happen. I didn't see any like, inspiring stories in media about
Yeah.
how someone accepted their health limitations and found
Right.
satisfaction in their creativity, not
Right.
as catharsis, because I'm sick of that narrative,
Hmm.
but just as a different relationship to your insides, creative and otherwise. Um,
Yeah. I really like that. And like thinking about how drawing is like physically an extension of your body. Like the things that you create
yes.
on the paper are like literally coming out, pouring out from your soul, your
Yeah.
heart into your arm, your hands, and onto the paper. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so intrinsically connected to our physical health in a very literal way. Right?
Yes, yeah. And I don't know if you've had any experiences yet where the pain or maybe complications of your physical health are actually coming from the activity of drawing. Has
Oh,
that
yeah.
struck
Yeah,
you yet?
definitely.
It comes for all of us who draw every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you find it was something you could move through easily? Because we're talking about typical drawing injury, but also in a body with chronic illness that might have other effects or be harder to um, support into healing.
Yeah, I experienced this as I was working on kind of like the final project for Saw, where our like last quarter was like all just working on a project. And I think in the past, like since I, for the most part, have just like worked with internal deadlines and like not really like working towards an external deadline for the most part, it was the first time when I was really kind of working a lot more intensely, like working many days in the week, you know. Whereas before I would just sort of set my own timeline and just like, you know, work once a week or whatever. And I was like, I really needed to be working like almost every day after work or like every other day. And it was, and for like multiple hours often. And I was getting a lot of back pain, um, and it really kind of like took me out for like a week or more. And I was
Oh,
like, okay,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, I was like, I really need to figure this out. So I asked like some of my friends in my like local chronic illness group, and one of them highly recommended her physical therapist, and luckily she was able to see me like immediately. So yeah, I worked with her throughout that like those final months of Saw and like into the summer a bit, working on like strengthening my back. And because I told her, I was like, I'm like, one of the big reasons I'm doing this is so I can like draw for
Yeah.
like the amount of time that I need to draw.
Mm-hmm.
And I did also got picked up a copy of Draw Stronger from the
Brilliant.
library, which everyone loves to recommend, and I do as well. And I was initially doing some of those exercises myself, but then it was actually really helpful to work with the physical therapist. And we weren't really able to like completely solve all of my symptoms. Like, for example, when I just like wash dishes and stuff, I get back pain like pretty quickly.
Mm.
But we were able to get to a point where I was drawing and like not really feeling that pain as much anymore during the drawing sessions. And then also another thing that I did was I downloaded this like app on my computer that tells me to like get up and take a break and stand every 30 minutes or however long I tell it to. And it just like turns off the computer when that happens.
Whoa, that sounds
So
very useful.
yeah, yeah. So like forcing myself to take breaks, and then like not doing marathon, sessions, and then doing the physical therapy was actually really helpful with just like the physicality of drawing.
Yeah, it tends to be a learning experience to have your first big drawing injury,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that may be. And that learning
Hmm.
experience isn't just, well, when I injure myself, I'm going to know what to do to get out of it. It does like
Hmm.
shift how you approach the daily act of drawing or maybe weekly. I'm not suggesting everyone has to draw every day.
Right.
Um,
No.
but yeah, and I feel in my health experiences, that's been true as well, where it's not a drawing injury that led me to change how I draw. It's all of my health experiences, my big crashes and very specific chronic pains that emerge dramatically that change not just how I do one particular activity, but change how I live. And that is a huge project. Like
Mm-hmm.
adjusting how you live is so big.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's ever done either. Um, and I'm saying all of this sort of to approach asking you, you're looking at your website, I identified nothing before 2020 in your comics career. So I would
But
say
yeah,
you're
I
pretty
started
new.
around there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty new
Mm-hmm.
to this world. My question is vague,
Let's hear it.
but it is, even being new to this world, I feel like you've established yourself in a couple of different, very significant places between being like a New Yorker cartoonist, having things on the nib, which is, you know, in the nonfiction world, just this huge presence for us in comics, and now being paired with Crucial Comics and doing this chronic illness comics club. Third time, fast as anything. Never would
Hell
have known
yeah.
that was challenging earlier. Um, so you kind of are building big things very quickly, and now you're talking about scaling back. Do
Mm.
you now have like a different vision for your comics career going through that wave?
Can I pause and close my blinds because it's like in my
Absolutely.
face? Yeah,
Yes,
I'll be right
yeah.
back.
Smart.
Okay, that seems better.
Do you want me to ask the question again?
Yes, please.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, it's good for me too because the second go
Yeah.
around, I could probably do it smoother. Um, Let me think back to where I started. It was a bit rambly. I was talking about it being a big learning experience, changing how you relate to life, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to start again from like the timeline of your career. So, for my preparation for this interview, looking at your website, which is excellent, by the way, very clean,
Thank
very
you.
good, solid information, very easy to understand. On your CV page, there's basically nothing that goes back before the year 2020, which just tells me you're new to this, new to
Mm-hmm.
comics, especially in the published in the world kind of way. Like you're not
Mm-hmm.
new to
Mm-hmm.
comics throughout your whole life, but new to us, I would say,
Yeah.
is all of the comics you've been making. And sorry, I was just deciding if I wanted to restart part of that because it was also a mess.
No worries. No, no, you're good.
Okay, I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do this for myself for the edit so that I know
Yeah, yeah,
this is the good one. I hope. God, I hope.
yeah.
Okay. So, looking at your website, preparing for this interview, I noticed on your CV page, and your website is wonderful. I want to give you that props.
Thank you.
Um, on your CV, there's nothing that occurs before 2020 in the realm of like published comics or any of the residencies you've done, interviews, even some of the writing. So I take from that you're really new to
Mm-hmm.
comics. Probably you've been reading them for a lot longer, but we, the world, are now experiencing your voice through comics. And you've already gone through like a really big surge of adding activities, like building accolades for yourself. Cartoons in the New Yorker, being a part of the Nib, having comics there, which is like a really important website for nonfiction comics in our world. Um, and now you're with Crucial Comics doing the Chronic Illness Comics Club. Um, Having gone so far and then now realized you need to scale back,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
has that changed what your vision is for your comics career going forward?
Hmm. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I didn't really start with doing comics until the pandemic, kind of late 2020. And actually I'm not like a lifelong comics fan or reader. Like I really started around that time.
Wait, how did you get into comics just in 2020?
Yeah,
How did that happen? Because obviously it grabbed you. Like you're in now.
right. Yeah. So I would say like growing up, I really only just read like the funny pages in the newspaper. That was about it. In high school, read some of the popular web comics like XKCD and stuff, but it was not really like something that was at the forefront of my mind. I really, so yeah, to give a bit more context, I studied engineering. Like all my schooling is in STEM. and I was kind of put into that pipeline very early. I really loved drawing and writing when I was like much younger. But as I got older, I sort of like didn't have time for that. And I didn't really have any peers or role models in my life who were doing creative things. So I really kind of came back to that much later in my life. Like I went to an engineering school, we had no drawing classes. I was really like starved for creativity for a lot of my life, most of my academic career. And so I had graduated from college 2019, and then I was, working. I was working in tech, and then the pandemic happened in 2020, and I think since I'd like finished schooling and I was, done with all of my academics and stuff, I no longer had that like pressure to like be focused on STEM and engineering and computer science. And so I sort of had time again to rediscover, my childhood interests and bring them back into my life. And so around that time, I also did not grow up with the New Yorker. I did not really know what that was. But I joined Instagram very late, like around 2018, 2019. And through Instagram, I started seeing these like New Yorker cartoons, which again, I hadn't really seen before in my life. I didn't know what that was. But I was really fascinated by them. I really loved them. I thought they were so funny and clever. And then I think I tried like drawing a few myself. They weren't very good. But then one of the cartoonists, Amy Kurzweil, she started like a Patreon in 2020 where she was doing these like monthly virtual calls of like teaching people how to do gag cartoons, like New Yorker style. And that was how I started. And initially, yeah, and initially, I actually didn't know anything about like the rest of the world of comics. I just knew about these like little single panel black and white cartoons. And so that's what I did for like 2 years. And all the people who I met, like my whole comics community was like just New Yorker cartoonists and people making New Yorker cartoons. And I didn't know anything else outside of that.
I have never heard a story like this before.
Really?
Not when it comes to comics, that the New Yorker would
Yeah.
become this focal point, and
Yeah,
not just a focal point, but like the
that was
only
my
point.
world. Yeah.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, but I think that's actually comics is just like such a wild world that there are all these like very specific subgenres and like groups within it. Like,
Yeah, like
I'm
full subcultures. Like
exactly, exactly. And so
yeah,
there is
wow.
an entire subculture of just people who read and consume and make New Yorker style cartoons. And just as there are, the people who make like capes, superhero comics, which is also not a world that I'm part of, or manga. So yeah, but then through that I started reading graphic novels and I started being introduced to like sequential, comics, narratives, graphic narratives. And then I started making these comics from my own life about, my health and like other experiences. And I sort of shifted away from these like single panel or like humorous cartoons and comics. And I started getting into like more narrative work through that. And actually, yeah, it's so funny because of just like what I was exposed to and like the people who are published who I saw, like most of them, their path was like, oh, we make these like funny cartoons for the New Yorker. We make these like humor comics for, like these longer humor comics. And then we make a graphic memoir or we make a graphic novel. So that was what I thought I had to do. I was like,
Wow. Just
yeah,
mapped out. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought I had to do. So actually, I went into the SAW program thinking that I wanted to make a graphic novel or I wanted to make a graphic memoir about my health experiences, about my journey. Um, and actually, I feel very grateful that I chose to go to SAW because I know that at some other like comics institutions, MFA programs, that is sort of like where people are sort of pushed to or they feel pressured to go into is like, oh, I need to make a book to sort of make it in the comics world or to like be recognized. And I think I really learned through, working on those like quarterly projects that we had to work on, which weren't that long, like 4 to 8 pages, but just doing those with my health and with the way my body is, I was like, this is a lot for me. Like just even doing these mini comics is a lot of work. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of energy. And I was like, hell no, I am not making a whole novel. At least
That's
like not
amazing.
at least
Yeah,
not where I'm at right now. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe
right.
someday my body will change, but I'm not really counting on that. And I also realize that that's not what I want. I don't want to work on like one big giant
Hmm.
project for like the next 10 years of my life and feel trapped by that, you know?
Hmm.
I and so yeah, I really have to thank Saw for helping me go from this like sort of unrealistic big goal that I don't think would be compatible with my body and my health, and realizing that actually I'm a lot more interested in just like being able to work on a variety of things, just working on like mini comics and zines. And, before I had really only done memoir stuff, and like Saw helped me see that, oh, I can actually make fiction too. That's kind of cool.
That's a whole new
Um,
world. Yeah.
yeah, and we also got to do a unit where we like experimented with different media, and I really enjoyed that. I loved that a lot. So I'm feeling a lot more in a very like experimental phase. I want to try exploring like different topics, not just from my own life. I have like all these ideas of like little zines that I want to make, like collage zines and risograph and watercolor. I recently started, like very recently, as of like 2 days ago, doing a bit of like nature journaling of my backyard and like
Cool.
identifying the plants and stuff. And that's been super fun. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like where I feel like I'm at right now. And I think I just want to like try out different things and be able to like iterate quickly with small projects and then see where that takes me, you know?
Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, having a path laid out, something that felt maybe a
Hmm.
bit prescriptive,
Yeah, yeah.
that it's like, you get those instructions from the outside and then you have to follow the path and live up to what the
Right,
path
right.
is.
Hmm.
Being able to turn away from that, like that can be a really major emotional experience, actually.
Yeah.
I would think that actually your chronic health experiences and how often those types of life altering limits ask you to let go of
Hmm.
dreams. Like finding out that you're sick in this
Hmm.
way, it's not like you get it overnight and you just go through one instance of, oh, I guess I'm letting go of everything. It's like
Hmm.
daily changes you make around, okay, well, I thought I was going to be able to go to the grocery store after work today, but
Right,
turns out I can't.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
shit.
Hmm.
And grief is always there too with letting other
Yes.
people,
Hmm.
yeah, like other lives are things that we'll never have.
Yeah,
Normal, quote unquote normal
absolutely.
lives, which are like, fuck it,
Right.
normal's not a real thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, those kind of daily experiences of letting go,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially of what people think we should want,
Hmm.
I would think that prepares you very well to have a career that really suits you. Like you said, is just whatever you are at right now, whatever you feel like, whatever works for your
Hmm.
body. Um, and to stand up for it is another thing entirely. Having the decision inside yourself is one, telling the
Yeah.
world, and then also receiving all the shit that people say,
Yeah.
and holding
Yeah.
that back and standing strong and like, no, this is what's good for me. I know you don't get it. I know you think I'd be great. I know
Hmm.
you really want me to bear all in a graphic medicine narrative, giving all the
Hmm.
awful details, but I don't wanna. It's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't see it so much as like letting go of a dream, because I don't even know if it was my dream that I wanted for myself to begin with. And also, I feel like I have instead found what I actually want, It has,
Yes.
and it feels a lot better. Like I feel a lot less pressure. I feel a lot freer.
Absolutely. I'm glad you used that word too. I think
Hmm.
talking about feeling free doesn't happen enough in
Mm-hmm.
life, and especially around health.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it really helped me. Like, it is such a beautiful thing that the comics community is so diverse in the way that, the different types of work that people create. And one of the people who kind of like helped me realize that, oh, I can just, make a comics career in quotes out of, just doing small projects or zines, was learning about John Porcellino in our history of comics class, who he's just been doing his King Cat zine for like forever,
Forever. Yeah,
And it's
forever.
like, yeah, like some of them have been collected into books, which is
Hmm.
great, but like that's not his goal. He's not like trying to push out like a bunch of books. And he has also written a lot about his own like chronic health
He
issues.
has, yeah.
And so that was a really great example for me to look up to. Like, hey, you can, you know, have this great art practice for yourself. That doesn't have to look in this like specific way, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a beautiful thing from, I guess, one of the birthplaces of comics in North America being that it was a counterculture
Mm-hmm.
for so long. And in some ways still is. There's obviously comics that are extremely mainstream. Um, but that form, the form of
Mm-hmm.
comics that is not trying to make itself a product or an industry, the
Yes.
form that is for me and my friends, and I'm making zines and I'm like selling them at
Mm-hmm.
like bands shows, because
Mm-hmm.
where else is a comics artist going to do that when they're
Yeah.
self-publishing and, photocopying shit?
Mm-hmm.
I love those origins of comics. I love
Yeah.
when we return to them, especially in this moment of our culture, in North America, where things are like so techy and so
Mm-hmm.
branded. And I mean,
Capitalist. Yeah.
that too, like I couldn't really claim that the counterculture stuff was always anti-capitalist. I think there's a
Mm.
ton of that, but it's just, let's not marry them. Let's make sure we're
Yeah.
identifying what
Yeah.
is and what isn't. Like, assumptions are not my favorite thing. Broad strokes we try to stay away from. However, the capitalism is possibly the broadest stroke that ever happened
Yeah.
in in fucking world history. Like, it's just absolutely taking over as like a monoculture economically,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously changing everyone's lives in so many different ways. Do you wait, let me think about this question a little bit more. Do you envision a counterculture for today emerging? This is hard to say because it's all, I feel like I'm just going to use the word emerging 20 times. Okay, I've got it. Let's go again. Do you think there's a way for the intersection of comics and chronic illness, the intersection of comics and health, to have its own counterculture that maybe doesn't rely so much on the like capitalist narratives and success narratives? I mean, do you see that in, like, you have an in-person chronic illness meetup, you also have your chronic illness comics club online meetup, and online spaces are often where we find each other. Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
using all the tools of this world, but also we have to exist in it differently. Like, we have to rely on each other in a way that capitalism's and colonialism's like individuality complex would insist, no, we people don't need that. But here we are as sick people. There is no question that we need it. We need each other, and then we need to rely on each other and share resources. And sometimes those are the resources produced by like massive corporations and like technology generators, both in
Mm.
the online and, arts, I'm going to say quote unquote art space, because like anytime a big company enters an art space, I'm like, this is commercial now.
Mm-hmm.
um, that's not exclusively art to me anymore. We use those tools and we use those technologies for staying healthy and for having access to things like physical
Mm-hmm.
access and treatment access, or treatments that give us access to like our own energy and our own lives again. I'm just curious, being connected to these communities, because I'm kind of a lone wolf over here.
Hmm.
What do you see in those cultures as like a natural emergence of something beyond this capitalist hellscape? I'm absolutely fishing here. I'm like, I want you to just tell me it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I need
I
that
am like,
too.
I'm like, I'm doing it out here where I'm just kind of alone in the woods all the time and it's
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful, but I don't see that as like something that scales to everyone.
Hmm.
And it also doesn't suit everyone's personality. There's you out there being a little social connector and social butterfly in many ways. So that's working for you. Like, what are you seeing there that I might not see as a loner in the woods?
Yeah, that's a really big question.
I know.
I I will try my best to say something that might be
Yeah,
relevant.
truly anything. I'm like, let's just go
Yeah.
off onto the vanguard of our own thoughts where we don't even know what the next word is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's already a lot of that community that you're speaking of, those communities of care within the disability spaces.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of, I haven't read up a lot about disability justice, but from what I have been exposed to, community care is like, and mutual aid is such a big part of that culture. And I see a lot of people doing that already and finding their spaces, connecting to people, on Instagram, on Discord, wherever it may be. Actually, in San Francisco, there just opened up recently a disability cultural center, which is,
Wow.
yeah, it
Oh, that
is
sounds gorgeous.
an in-person space that I haven't been to yet, but they
Mm-hmm.
have tons of programming that is like specifically for the disability community, all the way from, acts of joy, of like celebrating. They have a whole disability film festival, um, as well as, like all access, like dance parties and like strength training, things like that, crafting, but also like circles to discuss like very important topics, like for BIPOC folks, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, that's just an example of the way I see these kind of like anti capitalist communities that are bonding with each other and creating these ecosystems that can uplift one another and provide each other with the resources when our healthcare system, our cities do not provide, creating those like safety nets that our government should really be providing us with, but they fall so, so, so short so
Mm-hmm.
many of the times, and in our
Oh,
country right now are
yeah.
actively dismantling those systems in
Yeah.
horrible ways, right?
Absolutely. And that's
And
what part of the reason why I asked you this question was
right,
wow, things are going so bad right now.
things are really, really bad. But I see, whenever people are speaking up and saying, like, hey, like, I lost my SNAP benefits and I can only eat these specific foods, and the food banks that are filling in don't have those foods that I can eat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people are
Wow.
chiming in and saying, like, give me your Venmo, I'll send you money, I'll send you cash, I'll send you the resources. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think if we can just like reach out to each other and find each other, there is a lot of care and empathy and desire for people with resources, people who are able bodied, who have the means to help others to do that. Um, and so I do, like, it is a really challenging time that we are living through,
Mm-hmm.
but I do feel hope in those moments that I witness. And I think comics can really play a big role in doing that as well, because, as you said, it is already so anti-capitalist in its very nature of being this kind of like democratizing, equalizing medium, where in an age of media censorship and the government controlling the narrative in like mainstream media, where we can share our own stories without
Mm-hmm.
being gate kept by publishers, by editors, by bigger media companies, and we can both like educate each other raise awareness about like what it is to live like with chronic illness and disability, and build that empathy among able-bodied people, and also bring more people into the fold, into the movement, into mutual aid and community care. um,
Mm-hmm.
I think comics has always been that sort of counterculture, that way to sort of spread the revolution, right?
Yeah. It does make me think. I know these have existed already. I've just started to hear about them in some of the research I do, like for this podcast and for some other SAW programs that are coming up.
Ooh.
Yes. But learning about how, like, I mean, zines definitely, but also comics can be made, have been made, just to communicate like really important practical information that people living in a specific locality might need. And to
Mm-hmm,
have that,
mm-hmm.
like you said, not be censored, not be gate kept through systems of, a publisher approving or not approving, distributors deciding it's not something that will make them money, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I actually, as a concrete vision, even though like you didn't say specifically this, I'm hearing this is just one example, one concrete example of that kind of mutual care that you're talking about and a role that comics can have. Um, People showing up for each other will always make me want to cry. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It proves wrong the colonial capitalist narratives that we
Mm-hmm.
are so oppressed by every day in the most casual ways.
Yeah.
And I think it would be amazing for people to recognize that comics has that power partly because the bar for entry is set so low. So absolutely low. Like you have followed a path of pursuing mentorship and education, which I really think is one of the best ways to learn anything is just finding someone who does it and following what they're up to, and then if you can like find a way to learn more directly with them, not so much
Mm-hmm.
like absorbing their content but actually get into conversation, like have a relationship built, and learning that way, because that's like it's also a form of support that gives you a little relief from your own self-doubt perhaps. Having someone to talk
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
about what you're
Yeah,
doing.
absolutely. Yeah.
And comics, because it really just takes a surface that you can make a mark on and a thing to make the mark with.
Mm-hmm.
There's your yeah, there's the low bar and you're in.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
we really just need more comics all the time and need even all the different like drawing styles. And I know people say I'm so bad at drawing, I can barely draw stick
Right.
figures.
Right.
And I'm like, dude,
It's like
I
perfect.
yeah, exactly. And I can tell, like, as someone who looks at a lot of art and looks at a lot of comics, you draw a stick figure, and they draw a stick figure, and they draw a stick figure. After I've seen each of you do that a couple times, I can tell without knowing who drew what. Because whether or not you're drawing the same thing, you
Mm-hmm.
have a hand, you have a style that,
Yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
actually control as much as you think.
Right.
There's evidence of you, even in the simplest drawing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if it's to help your neighbors like know the system of steps to go through to like get a family doctor, like drawing your
Mm-hmm.
experience and then giving it to someone and saying this might help you is one of
Mm-hmm.
those so underrated acts that I'm relating that to you talking about when someone says, "Hey, my SNAP benefits are gone and here are my restrictions and I'm stuck," that other people will go, "Oh, I really want to help." I'd love that
Mm-hmm.
to be happening with the direct exchange of comics too, where it's like, hey, I have this condition. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And it's not just that I have this condition, but also this is where I'm located. These are my resources. Help. And
Yeah.
someone's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll write a little comic about how I dealt with that. Because I know it's easier to read something with pictures than it is like a huge bunch of text.
Right.
And
Right.
it will actually feel more like, you and I are connecting, not just a bunch of information flying between two places.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of grasping at this because I'm like, okay, there's got to be a way to like envision it so that just like with your career, like envisioning, okay, I want this comic space for chronic illness people I don't have
Hmm.
the resources. I want it to happen. Now I'm going to kind of carry out my life with that wish and hope that
Right.
things align. Like I'm trying to do the same thing right now where I'm like, yeah, I want more of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't have to make it a big pressured project and like announce it to the world right now. I'm just
Right.
saying I want it and I'm saying it on a
Hmm.
podcast. And I'm just going to trust that
You
people.
are kind of telling the world.
I mean, I'm telling the world that this needs to happen. I'm not telling the world that
Yes.
I'm about to do it.
Exactly.
That's a significant
Exactly.
difference
Yeah.
because I can't add more to my plate right now. I know my limits. I'm
Exactly.
trying to be graceful about it. Oh, but yeah, I had to like sit through finding it and saying all of that to you, even though I didn't know
Hmm.
where exactly I was headed and I was grasping at my words there. Because it just, sometimes it can be really hard to dream outside of what is here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for me, your perspective on that just gave me enough of like a sounding board and a little bit of safety, that connection of, okay, I'm not the only one here who's thinking about this. Let me
Hmm.
actually do the
Hmm.
hard work right now and like come up with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people will connect to that when you say it, and
Hope so.
they
Yeah,
will
I
want to
hope
do
so.
it. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, where we are, like, I love this hopeful note for an ending. So I wanted to take an opportunity here as well. Like, the Chronic Illness Comics Club, beautiful idea. It was set to go for the year 2025, and now they don't think there are any more sessions this year because we're talking in November, and I looked at the calendar.
We
Maybe
have
one
one
more.
more for the year.
Okay,
Yeah.
one more is going to emerge, and I was
Hmm.
wondering, could this possibly continue, or if it's not going to continue, what are you working on or proud of or yeah, looking forward to that you want to share with folks? I want to make sure that they know how to find you. They know what to look for.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have one more session in December. I think it's the 14th. Would love to
And
have you
people can still
there.
sign up. Yeah, like I just
Yeah.
signed up
Yeah.
earlier
Yeah.
today. It's on the
Oh,
Crucial
great.
Comics website. We'll share the
Yeah.
link. Sign up for that last. Oh, why am I saying this? I'm saying this even though your episode doesn't come out until 2026.
Oh,
So,
gotcha. Okay.
sorry.
All right.
Let's
We can
go
skip that
back.
part.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
going back. Where were we? I was saying, could that continue? You can say what's happening in 2026 because all that is, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable starting from there?
Yes. Yeah. So I think, as I mentioned, I was kind of doing a lot this past year, and I am feeling some of that burnout from, leading so many different groups. And I do want to sort of reclaim my time for my health and my own art projects. So I'm still kind of thinking about it, but I'm most likely leaning towards no longer facilitating the chronic illness comics club in the new year. I need a little break,
That's
but I
really good to
believe,
take.
yeah, but I think that Crucial Comics will try to find someone else to lead the group. Um, we also are, as of the recording of this podcast, we are putting together a zine of comics from the Chronic Illness Comics Club. We had put out like an open submissions call, and yeah, this was something that I had proposed to them, and Shay and Audra were really excited about this. And we got a lot of amazing submissions and saw just like how much interest and how much of a need there is for something like that. So that will be, the zine will should be published by the time of this podcast coming out. So you can look out for that. It'll be both available as like a print zine as well as online. And I think we saw there was so much interest that Crucial will definitely want to continue doing that every year. And yeah, I think I kind of have to like figure out how much time and energy I want to stay involved in this, or if I want to take a break and come back to it. But I think that's kind of the beauty of having this platform like Crucial, providing the scaffolding for it, is that I think this community and this project will continue on regardless of whether I, as an individual, can continue to put time into it. So I'm really, really grateful and looking forward to that continuing. Some other things that are coming up for me. Let's see. So yeah, the How to Touch Grass anthology, which I touched on, should be launching its Kickstarter sometime in February or March. So keep an eye out for that. And the comic I made for it is about accessibility to green spaces in San Francisco as someone with mobility limitations. And I'm really proud of that work and hope you will support it or look out for it when that becomes available. And I'm really excited to share that I recently found out that I got into an artist residency on Vashon Island in Seattle. So I'll be going up there in May, and it looks absolutely amazing. It's like on the water, like
Yes.
gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And yeah, that's going to be definitely a highlight of
Yeah.
2026 for me.
I would say, yeah, you have a lot of wonderful things coming up, even as you scale back. There's
Yeah.
a lot going on.
Yeah. Oh, and I also forgot to mention if you are in the Bay Area or San Francisco, I have some work up in the Cartoon Art Museum. It's part of an exhibit that's about New Yorker cartoonists on the West Coast. So it's a group exhibit with about six other New Yorker cartoonists. And that's actually up through February. So you can check it out if you're in the area.
Wow, amazing. That is, yeah, that's fantastic. A lot of stuff. I mean, I wanted to, first of all, say I will definitely be getting the How to Touch Grass anthology. I will
Yay!
sign up right now to back that when the Kickstarter launches.
Amazing.
And additionally, that it has absolutely been, no, how am I going to say this? And additionally, that it is my favorite thing to start a project and hand it off. That
Yes.
I love that. Like
Yes.
this past year, I was the festival director for the first ever St. John's Comic Arts Festival, and I'm just like,
Oh.
I got you going. Now run, everybody, go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just here's all my files. Here's all the documents. Go, you get it. Because with so many things that I want to see in the world, it is too much for me to take on. Similar to how you're describing feeling that burnout after a year of doing this, and how
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
within a year you might not do every meeting because it's not suited to your body at that moment. Yeah, I'm a big fan, so I'm glad to hear that the projects you've begun, the communities you've started, are going to continue with that home of Crucial Comics.
Yeah.
And also, it was beautiful for me to hear you say, and I might come back to them at some point because there's a lovely experience to be had there as well. Seeing how something that you started has changed and grown, and finding a new place in it, a new relationship to it, and always one that is on the terms of what is good for you. That's that's part of the like life change in having a chronic illness, realizing
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
good for me is actually the most important thing, not out of any like belief that I'm more important than anybody else, but out of my privilege and responsibility to steward and tend this body, which is not it's not bending to my will. So I
Yeah.
have to,
That's
my
right.
like stewardship is a quite humble role actually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our job in this life, like that there's no one else whose job it is to take care of yourself and to listen to what's good for you more than you. But we all need help with that too.
Yeah. Well said. Because I really love to hear that you are in a similar type of boat because I think I am that type of person who tends to like see these needs, these spaces that want to be filled, and
Yeah.
I like have the passion and interest to do
Yes,
it.
very clearly you do. Yes.
But then I also like very much recognize that it's like not sustainable for me to just be leading that thing or continuing that thing
Yeah.
indefinitely, right?
Yeah. Or even to do it
And
alone. It
yeah.
can't be all on my
Yeah,
shoulders. If it
exactly.
is,
Exactly.
I probably won't even get it done, the first time around. I'll fall flat because I just burn out. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, really trying to do exactly what you described of like starting the thing, helping mold it in its initial iteration, and then hopefully finding a space, a platform, someone else who can like, or some group ideally, that can like continue it on into its sustainable format for the long term, right?
And yeah, seeing everyone bring their own like flavor to it, their own
Yeah,
passions, it's actually amazing. I don't want to own it.
right.
I don't want it to
Exactly. Yeah.
always be my thing. I'm going to bring what I
Yeah.
have fully to that thing, and then I hope the next person does the same and I get to learn from that and watch it evolve.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
I don't think it's the last time our paths will cross.
No, no, we gotta keep in
Yes,
touch. I want to keep seeing what
absolutely.
you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and me as well. I want to see everything that you have going on, even if it's different year to year, even if it,
It will
changes
be, of course.
nonstop.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you so much for creating this space, Georgia, because I really feel like there is a need for more people to have these conversations about health, about chronic illness, and about making art along with it. And yeah, this is something that I've been hoping to see more of. So I'm really, really grateful to both you and to Saw for making this possible.
that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I like to think perhaps one of your projects in the future will be to make more of this as well.
Yeah, yeah, it could be.
All right, dear listener, that's it for this week. I hope you have a lot to think about. I certainly do. Zareen is really well spoken, and I always appreciate that because I spend a lot of time trying to be well spoken myself, and I know how hard it is. And so many of the things she said, I think, will ring in my ears for weeks, which is a good thing. I hope you take the time to check out Zareen's work. I know you can find her on her website. You can also find her on Instagram. I've made those links available in the show notes. And I encourage you to seek out whatever it is she does next, to pay attention to the anthology that she's promoting, because I think that's going to be coming out maybe around the same time as this episode. So take a look for it. And we'll be back next week with another practice for you to bring some health and creativity together in your own life, with my voice leading the way. If you wanted, leaving us a review, especially if you love something about Zareen's episode, you want to speak specifically to this conversation, a review on Apple Podcasts really takes the show a long way. So I hope you take the time, or perhaps rate the show, or send us a message, or share an episode with someone who you like and who you think might like the conversation. Wow, I'm still feeling awkward. It's been weeks now, but I'm still feeling awkward asking you to engage with this content. It's just not typically how I do things, but I realize it's important, and it's important for me to let you know that it's important to the show. So I'm going to stop for today, but you'll hear me do it again, and hopefully I'll get less frazzled about it. Okay, until next time, bye for now. If you loved listening to this episode, or if it stirred something new in you, I'd love you to leave us a review. Sharing your experiences is a gift to yourself and others, and definitely me. I love learning how my offerings land in other people, and it really helps the show to find those who need it. If you want to connect with myself and others who are practicing drawing health in community every Saturday, just go to drawinghealth.com and sign up for the weekly live class. It's truly some kind of magic, and it wouldn't be possible without our hosts, SAW. The Sequential Artist Workshop is a grassroots, nonprofit comic school and creative community. At SAW, we teach people how to tell stories and make comics in Gainesville, Florida, USA, and around the world via our online courses and resources. Go to sequentialartistworkshop.org to join our community of learners and artists today. Our theme music is Magic Hours by Aaron Como, made for the Main Street Music Library. The Main Street Music Library hosts instrumental music created with simple parameters, with scores and instructions for listeners to recreate the music themselves. Musicians, artists, and listeners are encouraged to borrow freely from the library and return the materials in a different form than they found them. Find out more at mainstreetmusiclibrary.com. This podcast is for information and exploration purposes only and is never intended as medical advice. Every viewer and listener is encouraged to seek medical attention at their own discretion. This podcast and the guided practices are tools for listeners to support their whole health and should always be used with care.